I'm the Scottish Conservative candidate for Edinburgh and Hamilton West. I'm very honoured to have been asked to kick off the 2015 general election campaign this morning. It's good to see such a full room as well. I'm told that I'm the youngest Scottish Conservative candidate who's been selected to stand this year. I don't know whether I'll be put up here this morning to make Ruth look old, but I don't think it'll work anyway. What I do know is that it is a massive privilege to be a candidate and to be able to ask for people's vote. And I know that I share that feeling with every one of our 58 Conservative candidates right across Scotland, many of them are in the room today. We've already been out on those speaking to people, and my feeling is that things are beginning to change. We stood with the majority of Scots last year, keeping our family and nations together. We led from the front in proposing a new package of powers to the Parliament behind me, something we're going to deliver on when we're elected in May. We're on the side of people in Scotland, and now that we're there, we're going to stay by their side. Ruth Davidson has been a leader throughout all of that. She's led from the front, and she's shown people, day by day, that the Scottish Conservatives are a force to be reckoned with once again. It's her who has shown how the misguided plans of SNP and the Labour Party are letting down ordinary Scots, and it's the Scottish Conservatives who have the idea for a fairer, better future together. So let's hear it from you all for Ruth Davidson.
Welcome to the launch of our general election campaign. I have to say, it still feels as if we've got a long way till May the 7th. I feel that this one might be a marathon rather than a sprint. For politicians, it's going to be a test of stamina, and for the general public, I think it may well be a test of patience. But at least it does mean that all of the political parties standing in this campaign have the chance to set out their stall. So this morning, I want to talk to you not so much about what we're going to do, because there's plenty of time for that, but I want to talk to you about what Conservatives in government have done, what we've achieved, and how it has made a difference. Because we all know what's coming. There is going to be a line spun by our opponents in this election, and it's one that we Scottish Conservatives are well used to. That in office, Conservatives only look after their own, and that we only use power to help those already with power. That in short, our motives and our actions are somehow less noble, less moral than those paragons of virtue in Labour and the SNP. That we are something different, something less, something other, that our belief in the power of ideas, in politics itself, has less to do with service than with preferment or advancement. And it is utter nonsense. So I'm going to take the fight to our opponents in this campaign. I'm not prepared to see our record trashed by half-truths or lazy assertion. Let's not take lectures from the SNP or Labour on how we improve the lives of millions. Let's not hear any earnest lectures about economic competence from Ed Miliband, the man who forgot to include the deficit in his own conference speech. And let's absolutely refuse to take lectures on social justice from politicians on six-figure book deals while they're quaffing pink champagne. Let's tell people about our record. Let's make sure they know. And I want you all here to be in no doubt, and to make sure people out there are left in no doubt either. I'm in this party because I believe it looks out for the little guy, for the outsider, for the family that just wants a fair deal. And I want people to know, I want them to know that we Conservatives are in this to look out for all of society, that our record in government stands true to that aim, and that it is the job-destroying plans being set out by an SNP Labour alliance on the left which threatens to ruin all of that hard work. So here's where we take on our critics. We give them simple facts. you'll see three big numbers behind me, and I want you to remember them during this campaign. 174,000. That's the number of jobs created in Scotland alone since we got Labour out of office and got a competent, Conservative-led government back behind the wheel. 56,700. That's the number of job seekers in Scotland who've come off benefits since we got Labour out of government. And 37,600. That is the number of new businesses created in Scotland since that infamous Labour minister walked out of his Whitehall office back in 2010, leaving a note to say that there was no money left. Labour's idea of a joke, but deadly serious for the rest of us. But one thing it did, it at least spelled out the situation that the government faced back then. We were facing a national crisis. The coalition was formed because it had to be. Anything else wouldn't have given the country the security that it needed. And we all know how tough it's been for families since then. The government had to take decisions that were difficult for people, sometimes very difficult. But when it comes to getting the troops under control, under a Conservative Chancellor, the top 20% have contributed more to deficit reduction than the other 80% combined. And it's in those numbers that we're beginning to see a path back. We now have the highest employment we have ever seen in this country. The highest ever. We have more jobs being created in Britain than the rest of Europe combined. And it's no wonder that immigration is still rising. If you're French or Spanish, where else would you want to go? And all those new businesses. Remember those siren warnings back in 2010 about public sector job cuts? It turns out that for every public sector job lost since then, our amazing businesses have produced another 3. And with jobs on the rise and a welfare system that finally is beginning to incentivise work, we see more people in Scotland off job seekers that could fit into Hammond Park. And I know our critics say at this point, they say it might be recovery, but people don't feel it. They say they might be jobs, but they're the wrong kind of jobs. Now, I agree, absolutely agree, that there's an awful lot more that we can do. If a firm is using 0 hours contracts to exploit their workers, then I say let's stop them. And by the way, the UK government is doing just that. If a small business is paying less than the living wage, then I say let's help them to pay more. And the Scottish Conservatives have a plan laid out. But let's stop for just 1 minute and ask whether our critics in the SNP and Labour are right about all of this. Let's hit them with a few more facts. The minimum wage. We've raised it by 3% ahead of inflation, and I can tell you that our Prime Minister wants to raise it more. Taking the low paid out of tax, a total of 261,000 people in Scotland have been taken out of paid tax altogether. Meaning that if you're on the minimum wage, you're now £618 a year better off. And on the cost of living, the Independent Office of Budget Responsibility now says that household incomes will be higher in real terms than when we came to government. And thanks to falling inflation, that pound in your pocket is going further still. And that's the inequality. I agree that there is a disconnect between the mega rich who seem to float above society out of the reach of the rest of us. But you know what? It is a fact. It is a fact that the top 1% will soon start paying 27% of all tax. That's higher than in any year under the last Labour government. And it is a fact that this Conservative Treasury has finally started doing what Labour failed utterly to do, cracking down on aggressive tax avoidance so that everybody pays their share. I could go on, full duty, frozen again, meaning we're limiting the cost it takes to fill up your car. 1 million Scottish pensioners have benefited from the triple lock protecting their state pension. It means that the average Scot on a full state pension is now £560 better off. And it has reduced pensioner poverty to its lowest level. Funding for our NHS, protected right across the last 5 years and passed on in full to the Scottish Government. And one thing that we don't do enough of. We are part of a government which, from its own office, down the road from here in East Kilbride, has protected our aid budget to the poorest nations of the the world, and it has kept our commitment to the world's poorest people. And I know that people here are still finding it tough. And if we want to get our debts finally falling, I know too that more savings will have to be made, and that's not going to be easy. But the gains that we have made are real, and they give me the confidence to know that we can do more. Raising the rate at which people start paying tax, keeping the retired secure in their old age, all part of a country that once again lives within its means and doesn't pile its debts onto the shoulders of our children and our grandchildren. Conservatives didn't take the tough decisions of the last few years out of some ideological addiction to a smaller state. We did it because we believe in a different path to social justice and to those who oppose the cuts. One which puts the long term ahead of short-term tactics, which knows that if we cut our cloth now, we will all benefit tomorrow. It means that while there may be 6 long weeks to go, the choice is already very, very clear. All I see from Labour, from the SNP, from the Lib Dems is weakness and division, a desire to dodge reality and to either ignore the hard choices or to pretend that they can be wished away. And the terrifying prospect that not just one of these parties might get their hands on power, but that they might be grappling with the controls altogether and all at the same time. And you know, I don't know what's happened to the once proud Labour and Lib Dem parties in Scotland. All we see now are headless chickens, still running around the chicken coop, not a brain cell in sight, and all of them about to get stuffed. Scots deserve to get dragged into this mess. Labour, the SNP and Lib Dems simply aren't prepared for the responsible government which keeps the recovery on track. Their plans are unfit to our country's needs, and it's our job to make sure they don't get to use them. And we do it by making sure we show up the positives of the other side of that choice, the Scottish Conservative choice, not the party of the establishment, as our critics like to call it, but the party that takes on the establishment, the old Scottish Labour establishment, the centralising SNP establishment, the lazy, complacent Central Belt establishment that still thinks it knows best across Scotland, but which is holding us back. The party that demands a great school for every child and won't accept that it's okay for some schools to coast. The party that thinks that money should start with the worker, the grafter, not to feather the nest of a growing bureaucracy. The party that won't accept a centralising SNP government that just wants to hoard power and not give it away. We're the party which stands up for the moderate centre ground, the party that is on your side, the party with the common good at its heart. So tell them boldly and confidently in this campaign that we're the party that put the backbone into last year's referendum victory. We're the party that's given Scotland the best of both worlds, strong devolution and a strong United Kingdom. We're the party that has secured our economy and is bringing the country back into the black. We're the party that will help low-paid workers keep more of their money, delivering better-paid jobs. Come on, we're not going to let Ed Miliband become Prime Minister, are we? Are we?
No.
Yeah. We're not going to let Labour and the SNP throw away all the gains we've made over the last few years, are we?
No.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our record of achievement to the doorsteps across Scotland, door to door to door. A growing economy, more jobs, the deficit being cut, work always paying more than benefits, living standards on the way up, poverty on the way down. We are going to take that record of achievement and our plans for the future to the Scottish people, and we're going to ask them to choose. Do we want to go forward or back? Back to the days of mismanagement and decline, back to uncertainty and insecurity, or forward with the Conservatives to more opportunity, to greater prosperity, to a better future for everyone. Let's hear it for a great campaign, for spreading our message, for telling our story, for speaking our truth. And on May the 7th, let's hear it for a Conservative victory. Thank you very much.